Good morning, everyone. Okay, so I have just moved back to Seattle, so it's been a little bit of a whirlwind weekend. This morning, we wanted to talk to you about um, Vendor Central versus Seller Central and trying to use a hybrid model to control your brand on Amazon. There are a few other things that are also current topics, and as usual, please pop any questions that you have about Q4, about anything you're working on, any questions you have about Amazon at all into the chat window. Okay. All right. So the first thing is, I was just helping someone this last week who really wants to get back onto Vendor Central. And they're selling on Marketplace, and they're doing a great job selling on Marketplace, but they really wanted to get on Vendor Central for one very specific reason. And that reason is that Amazon gives them big POs. It's a pretty good reason to want to be on Vendor Central. So with Vendor Central, you're selling directly to Amazon. And so they can buy your stuff directly from you, and you do not have to be a brand owner to sell on Vendor Central. There is actually a very large wholesale seller that I know who actually sells directly to Amazon because he gets fairly large quantities at a time, and so he can offer competitive prices to Amazon. So often they'll actually buy from him. So just because you have, wholesale brands instead of your own brand does not mean that Vendor Central isn't an option for you. Okay, so the only thing that's challenging about Vendor Central is sometimes if you're not selling a lot, then you may have difficulties with managing pricing or negotiating the contract. So as a smaller vendor, sometimes you don't have the same kind of negotiating power as a bigger vendor might. So just to give you some ideas on how to manage your pricing and your quantities and how to kind of control that. The first thing is, just to think about where selling is on Amazon. If you are someone who's selling and you're always doing Marketplace, there are a few things that you're locked out of still if you are selling only and not with vendor. The first thing is that still only vendors have access to Vine Voice. And you may not know what Vine Voice is. Vine Voice is the tool that allows you to pay actually quite a lot of money, sadly, but you can pay and get 30 verified purchase reviews with a little Vine Voice sticker. And so you can kick off your new product with 30 verified purchase reviews. So that's a pretty darn big benefit. It's expensive, but so is trying to launch a new product without reviews. So that's a pretty huge benefit of being vendor. The other thing that's pretty big benefit of being vendor is you just get access to a lot of things that otherwise you have to get manually given access to, like the Marketplace growth program. They allow you access to certain kinds of deals, like deals of the day and some other stuff like that. Or you can be a vendor and get benefits like deals of the day. You get lightning deals, you get coupons, and you get promotions as a seller, but deals of the day are still something that are available only to vendors or to Marketplace growth program people. So there's certain things as well as Launchpad and exclusives, I believe. So only the special programs get deals of the day at the moment. There's also some other ones that you can do, but there's some definite benefits to being vendor. If you look at the cost structure, most of the time Marketplace wins, to be honest. And that's mostly because you can give yourself the margin you need. Whereas on vendor side, if you give Amazon anything less than about a 35% margin or so, like 30 is the bare minimum, but if you give them less than about a 35% margin on your product, then they designate your product as crap, C-R-A-P. Can't realize a profit. Amazon has an obsession with acronyms, especially cute acronyms. So basically what ASINs that don't make a profit are referred to as crap ASINs. So if you're not giving Amazon 40% or so is considered a good return for them. So if you're selling it at wholesale, say you've got a product that you can sell for wholesale around $7, well, then they need to be able to retail it between 12 and 14 to feel really confident about that product. That can be a little bit tough. The one area where I would say that folks do really well with Vendor Central is through Dropship Central. So Dropship Central is when Amazon buys the product from you, but you're the one who ships it. So that can actually be, like, the cost structure can be much better than shipping yourself, because you're paying Amazon's rates to ship out. So things like tables, chairs, large game console type things, really big, heavy, bulky items that need to be shipped by pallet, those can often be more cost effective being a vendor. So that's one thing if you happen to be selling any of those. For a profitability analysis, you really have to know where the cost structure comes in. With 3P, with Marketplace, you know where they are. You go to that FBA revenue calculator, you put in your total price, then they take out the 15% or whatever your category is for the Amazon referral fee. Then you subtract the FBA shipping fees, and then you should subtract the FBA handling fees, the handling and storage fees. And then you subtract any other long-term storage fees you're shipping into Amazon if you're using FBA, and then that gives you your total net margin, right? So that's the top line before you have your own costs. So that's kind of the basic way that you figure out if you're profitable on 3P. For 1P, you actually need to figure out all your allowances. So they do it slightly differently. They have like damage allowances. They can have up to 2, 3, 4, 5%, sometimes way more, depending on if the item is glass and isn't packaged properly. So they can have damage allowances that they're asking for. They can have shipping allowances. They can have marketing allowances. They can have advertising allowances. Those are two different things. And sometimes the allowances can add up to something quite significant. So you have to add up all your allowances into your price first. So sometimes people will offer it to Amazon with all the prices built in. But then if some wholesaler comes in, like I mentioned, wholesalers can offer it to Amazon too at a lower price because they don't need to worry about that, or because they repackaged it, or they did something else that was saving money for them. Then they can come into Amazon and get the PO instead of the actual manufacturer, which does happen. So that's something to also keep in mind. If you're doing wholesale for a medium-sized brand, you could potentially swoop in and get that wholesale order from vendor as well. So there are definitely some options there. So that's kind of the high level between vendor and seller. If you have any interest in understanding how vendor works, or trying to get an introduction to a vendor manager, these things are not too difficult, but trying to actually get an invitation to Vendor Central is a little bit harder. So definitely feel free to reach out if you have any of those questions. And you can certainly ask in our Facebook group, which is linked there. But if you have any questions about getting onto Vendor Central, or would like to be introduced to a Vendor Central manager, they rotate in and out so fast. So what I'll usually do is I just add people on LinkedIn constantly. It's the easiest way to do it. And if you're connected to enough people at Amazon, nearly everyone is a second connection for me. So that makes it easy. Okay, so that was the main topic for seller versus vendor. The second main topic we had for today was reporting a violation. And there's a few different ways that you can report violations. So the most obvious one is if you have a Seller Central account, which I'm assuming all of you do. There is a report a violation tool within Seller Central. It's under the help page. So you click on help, and you click on contact us, and then you go through a little questionnaire thingy, and then they realize that they can't help you directly. And so then you go over to the left-hand side to the menu. It's usually under other, I believe, and then report a violation. Now, the main problem with that report a violation tool is that most people misuse it. Most people do not realize how narrow their violation report has to be. So my favorite was an old client who came back to us and said, hey, so I've been trying to report this violation, and it's super frustrating. I've been reporting it, and nothing is happening on Amazon's side. I just don't know what to do because this is a huge problem for me and my brand, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, okay, well, send me the report so I can take a look at it. And they sent the report, and the report was maybe 3 lines, maybe 4. And it said something like, Chinese sellers are posting negative reviews on our page and upvoting them constantly, and we can't control it. Can you please investigate and shut down the sellers that are doing this? No other information, no other details. It was just saying they're posting on our, I think they give the ASIN that they were saying that the negative reviews are happening, but that was it. So imagine being the person who has to resolve that. You have maybe 3 to 5 minutes, maybe. And now you've got to go and look at the ASIN, go look for potentially fraudulent reviews, go hunt around. And no, you're not going to do that. You're never going to do that. So when you report a violation, you need to think about the person who's receiving the violation and make sure that the way that the violation is reported can be handled theoretically. Like if you were the one, if you had tools to do this, would you be able to do it in 3 to 5 minutes? Maybe, maybe not. Well, make it as narrow as possible. So in that case, and this is probably the lamest thing that you have to realize and just run with, just let it go and run with it, is that you need to file a report per violation. That means each review. So if something like that is happening to you and you just gotten hit with 30 or 40 fraudulent reviews, you need to file 30 to 40 report a violation tickets. I know that sucks. I absolutely understand that sucks. But if you actually want anything to happen, you need to think about the person on the other side of the computer, the person who has to get all this investigated, tagged, annotated, responded to, removed, all of the steps that need to happen to resolve and fix that dispute and then warn the person who did it. They have to do all that and respond to you and send you an email back. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how they decide to do it. Most of the time they'll say, thank you for submitting. That's about it. But they still have to click through that and the computer still has to reload. And they still have to do all that within 3 to 5 minutes. So you want to make sure that you're making it as easy as possible for them to resolve that violation. Otherwise, they won't. They'll find a way not to. Same thing with anyone that is trying to report a violation for someone who is upvoting or downvoting. You have to do each individual review ID. The review IDs are in the URL. So when you click on the review name, like this thing stinks, I hate it. When you click on it, it's a URL, and then it just shows that review. In the URL, you'll have a long R number, R with a string of characters and letters. That's the review ID. You have to provide that. You can do the URL or you can do the R ID. Either way, Amazon will be able to look it up with that review ID. So as long as you provide that review ID, then you're good to go. If you're trying to report a fraudulent reviewer, like you see the same reviewer showing up multiple times, then you want to click on their name, even if it says Amazon customer, and that'll take them to a separate page. It's a profile ID page. And then you want to copy and paste that to Amazon so that they can look up the profile, okay? So you want to give them as much information as possible and one at a time. You do not want to give them a whole bunch to do or they won't do it. If you're trying to report something like a legal violation, like say you've got a trademark or IP violation, that is actually typically done through brand registry. So if you have a patent violation, that can be directly reported, but typically for trademark or copyright, you're going to need to have brand registry to make that happen. And Christina asks, is this info the same for brand registered sellers? Yes, for reported violation, that's anyone who has a seller account, doesn't matter. For intellectual property violations, that's for brand registry, and that's specifically copyright and trademark, but patent can be reported separately. That's a separate form that goes directly to legal. So with the brand registry side, you log into brand registry, which is services.amazon.com/brand registry. And if you haven't registered for the new brand registry 2.0, you need to. And there are two things that the Brand Central site lets you do right now. One, register a brand. Woo, very exciting. Two, report a violation. That's it. Hopefully at some point it'll do something else, but right now that's all it really does. With the report a violation tool, you do have to be a little bit careful. The last time we used that for a client, he got spooked because he ended up getting a warning for his own product. They're not very good at their job sometimes. So if you want to report that, then there's actually a built-in feature within Brand Registry 2.0 where you pull up the ASIN that's relevant, and then you just click that you want to warn the people that you want to report the violation that way. So it's already built into the tool. And that's how you report trademark or copyright violation. Now, keep in mind, Amazon wants registrations. That's the easiest way to do this, right? So if you have a picture and you're trying to claim copyright violation, the easiest way to get Amazon to believe you is to have registered the copyright with the US, I think whatever the name is, but the Copyright Office. So they really like registration numbers. And obviously to get a trademark number in the first place. You have to register with USPTO, and then that's how you get brand registered 2.0. And so anything that's trademark related, like someone's using your trademark on another product and knocking it off, well, then that's an obvious one. But trademark violations are not the same as distribution violation agreements. So if you have a wholesale seller who's buying your stuff and then they're selling it on Amazon, or you had a giveaway and they got it cheap and they're selling it on Amazon, those are not trademark violations. If you report those erroneously, Amazon will get mad at you. So anything that is a distribution violation, you'll want to send a cease and desist to the seller and try to get them to stop. If they don't stop, then you can do a test buy and try to claim that the product is materially different than yours, but that's not the same as a trademark violation. So be careful with that, because people have been blocked from being able to report violations if they constantly report wrongly. And Tandy asked, trademark needs to be completed before brand registry 2.0. Yes. The only thing that has been interesting lately that I've seen is that the Australian trademark works for brand registry. It doesn't protect you in the US. So you still need to get a trademark in the US. But what we've heard is that the Australian registration process takes 4 to 6 months. Average in the US right now, not joking, 11 to 12 months. It's horrendous. So I'm looking to see if we can get a recommendation for an Australian lawyer. So even if, for whatever reason, you always want to file in the US because that gives you legal protection. But obviously getting brand registry 6 months earlier would be super helpful for a lot of brands. So registering in Australia seems like a good idea. Germany, I think, is also around 6 or 7 months, but Australia is in English. So that can be a little bit easier than trying to navigate some complicated Amt in Germany. Christina asks, if a Chinese seller with 2 selling accounts is manipulating the platform and review process, how should I report them? Same thing as before, one at a time. So you have to reply to Amazon with a review ID or with a profile ID. You can't just say the Chinese are after me. And that original report that I was referring to really was pretty darn vague. No one can do anything with that. If you're trying to investigate that, there's just not enough details. For brand registry, why it's helpful and why it's worth the effort to make it this whole rigmarole about trying to make Australia work is because brand registry is super, super helpful. The first thing you get with brand registry is you get storefronts. And the reason I love storefronts, there's 2 reasons. One, it gives you a website within Amazon. And so you can do different things like multiple videos. You can do different kinds of charts. You can do different kinds of visuals. You can do text. So that's a huge benefit. The storefront is also beneficial because if you get Google juice out of it, basically using Keyword Planner and putting in keywords into the storefront that are based on search results for your product in Google Keyword Planner, then you're more likely to rank for things in Google and get Google searches to your storefront. And Google always ranks Amazon highly. So in amazon.com/your brand, that URL is going to get some pretty good play in Google. So storefronts in general are pretty cool. They're an Amazon branded website. Very helpful. You can also use them as landing pages. In fact, that's the primary benefit of them within Amazon itself. So what you do is you set up a sponsored brand campaign and then have it direct to your storefront. So you can have your main storefront page, you can have your product line sub-pages, then you can have landing pages for your individual products below that. So it's like main page, child page, grandchild page. And then your landing page can have a video, it can have instructional things. It can basically be formatted just like a Billy Mays OxyClean ad, right? Here's the pain, it's so difficult. Here's how my product solves it. And here's an easy add to cart button. So it's pretty cool, actually, the way that storefronts work. We've gotten some really good results with some of the landing pages with sponsored brand ads plus the storefront landing pages. I think our best ad right now is running at around 8% ACOS for sales of over $1,000 a month for one product just from the storefront ad. That doesn't include the PPC ads and so on. So just from one storefront page, they're making that much. Then there's also the main storefront page that we're running traffic to, and that one's at around 12% right now, so it could be better. And then there's their PPC ads that are selling, $4 or $5 grand a month on this one particular product. So we're running actually 3 separate ad types on this one particular product, and the storefront is successfully running on 2 of those. So that's pretty awesome. Now, the only thing I don't like about the storefront is that it's not searchable on Amazon. So people who are running searches don't get storefront results. They get, the normal detail page results. So there's the drawback there. The other thing that brand registry gets you that's super, super helpful is you get EBC on the page. So when you're directing traffic to your page through PPC, the pay-per-click campaigns, then it goes to your regular page and you see EBC when they scroll down. Now, this is most helpful for mobile devices. And why I say that, go check out a listing on mobile device sometime and see what pops up first. When you scroll one page down, the first thing that shows up is your enhanced brand content because product description shows up first on mobile devices. It's kind of buried in the middle on web browsers from a computer, but on mobile device, it's super, super important. So keep that in mind when you're choosing pictures and you're choosing how it looks because it needs to be optimized for mobile. But it is so helpful for convincing people. And now we have one video per page on EBC as well. It finally got rolled out to everybody. I think in September, it finally got finished rolling out to everyone. It started like March this year and they ran it out for the last 6 months. So super, super helpful. Getting video on your page, getting a storefront is absolutely worth putting in the effort to get a trademark. No question in my mind. And Christina mentioned that 67% of buyers purchase from their mobile. But what I want to point out is that over 90% of millennials purchase from their mobile. So if your target customer is millennials, or if your largest buying block is millennials, or you're trying to get millennials to buy your stuff in general, mobile friendly is the way to go because, they're on their phones. I buy on the web browser for Amazon Business only. So for actually buying for Cascadia. So like from our office, I do office supplies and other things for the business that I'm buying through the Amazon Business account. I actually buy that on a web browser because I'm working on my laptop. Otherwise, everything I do personally is on my mobile browser. So definitely optimizing for mobile is super, super important. Oh, and Christina is pulling out all of the stats this morning. 89% of households also have Prime. So if you're wondering why you should utilize FBA, yeah, we had a question about seller fulfilled Prime versus FBA. And seller fulfilled Prime versus FBA is really similar to the question that we started with Vendor Central versus Seller Central. You really have to look at your inputs, your cost inputs, because you really want Prime. You really, really want Prime. That's really important. So then you've got to figure out, where can I offer Prime? You might want to only offer Prime locally to you to save your money. And then, not offer it elsewhere if FBA just doesn't make sense. The other thing that's super, super helpful is there is a beta to allow sellers to have returns shipped to their own address. So that's super helpful. Once they get that beta off the ground, it should be sometime next year, then the biggest problem with using FBA should be solved, which is handling returns. So annoying that it goes back to the Amazon FCs and then they decide if it's sellable or not. It's so much better if you guys can decide if it's sellable or not because it's your product and you can repackage it properly. So that's going to solve a huge problem with FBA for most sellers, but it isn't here yet. It's just in beta for now. But that's going to be a huge benefit sometime next year, hopefully. Usually when there's a beta, the next year they launch that. So if there are any questions about anything that we've covered today, please pop into the Facebook group and ask it. If there are any questions right now, please pop into the chat and ask it. We are starting our Q4 Bootcamp on the 23rd in a week, and we really, really would love to see you there. So what we are covering for the Q4 Bootcamp is daily, every single day. There will be an actionable step for you to improve your account throughout the month of the rest of October and throughout the month of November. The last day will be Black Friday. And so basically the very last day will just be steps on how to stay on top of any issues that happen on the top selling days, going into your holiday weekend. So what my goal is for anyone who is part of the bootcamp is first, you have full access to me for a month. So you can ask any questions you want in the dedicated Facebook group just for that. Any questions at all. You can actually ask any non-related questions as well. So if today we're talking about coupons, but you're like, no, I really need a question answered about my shipping plan, something's wrong, I really need help with that, then ask that. You could ask a question like, say you got a listing suspended and you need help with that. Hey, can you read my plan of action? What's going on here? Then I will help with that. Basically anything you need help with from the month of October 23rd, November 23rd, then I will be personally at your disposal. So that is something that I think I'm a little bit worried about it, but at the same time, this is what we're here for. We're here to help people. We're here to help sellers be absolutely awesome for Q4, and that's what I love doing. So during the Q4 Bootcamp, again, one day at a time, that's it. Something simple and actionable you can do every day. If you happen to miss a few days, no problem. There will be replays. There'll be handouts for you guys to follow. And, if you happened to miss a couple days, but you were able to catch up on the weekend, it shouldn't take more than, say, 3 or 4 hours to catch up with most of the week. So don't worry about that. This is meant to be something to keep you focused and organized throughout the month prior to Black Friday. There was another question that came in from Tandy. Is it okay to initiate a test buy on our own, or is it best to get that suggestion through Amazon first? Go for it. Do test buys on your own. Make sure that that's the most basic thing that Amazon expects you to do. If you are submitting a violation, you have to have shown that you did some sort of effort to prove that it's a violation. You can't just say, I never sell to this person, so therefore it must be a violation. You do have to have some proof. They had way too many fake violations reported, so it's a concern for them. Hugh asks, Amazon has changed my category and won't change it back. What's the best way to escalate? So there's a few challenges with changing categories. We've had that happen with clients multiple times where things will change, then we have to go change it back, and then it changes and they change it back. Categories especially. Then they'll retire certain categories and won't tell anyone. And so then like half your listings will be retired and you have quality alerts and you got to go fix it. Very annoying. If for whatever reason they absolutely refuse to change it, then you need to call seller support and get a captive associate. So the worst time that Jim had to call back before he finally got a captive associate was 20 times. So be patient and keep asking to be transferred. And eventually they'll have someone to transfer you to. And usually the captive associates are the only ones with the tools permissions to be able to make some of those changes. So sometimes you really just have to do stuff like that. Sometimes you can do things on your own too. So again, part of the idea of the Q4 Bootcamp is to have, a concentrated, focused amount of time that all of us can spend together and working together to be able to make your Q4 successful and special. And these are exactly the kind of questions, but if this doesn't work, then we are happy to help you make that work. So that's what we're going to do for that month. If there are any more questions, at this point, I need to end for today since we're at 7:32 in the morning. If there are any other questions, please pop into the Facebook group and ask them there, and I'd love to see you there. And again, only 1 week left before the Q4 Bootcamp. And if you aren't sure if you wanted to join, or for whatever reason you have concerns about finances, or you can't join till November 1st, that's also fine. You'll get access to all the replays no matter when you join during the Q4 Bootcamp. Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much. And we will talk again next week. All right. Bye.